A successful converting webinar is an art, and I think people think it's a lot easier than it is. There is a lot of intention that goes into creating a webinar. You actually want your buyers, you want it to be like, when you walk past a restaurant and it smells really good, they're actually hungry for it. And to do that, your content has to be laid out in a very clear, structured way where it's providing value, because clarity is value. Embodied CEOs don't chase trends, they pave the way. They lead from within, moved by purpose, unshaken by noise. When you are the source, you do not need permission. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I think today is the first day that I actually feel like mentally back after the live event. So what is that, 5 days? 5 days, noted for next time. That's how long it takes me. I am super grateful that our business is just in this season of massive growth, and we just came off of our challenge launch, which thankfully I did before the live event. I have made the mistake in the past of thinking that I'm some sort of invincible human and can host a 3-day event, take 1 day off, and go straight into a massive live launch. Literally did that last year. So at least we've gotten better, guys. We've improved. But we came off that, and I had some time in between that and the live event, which was perfect. But with all of those sales, we had a bonus where everybody who bought in a certain period of time got an extra 30-minute call with me. And so I needed to and got to fulfill those, but they stacked up on my calendar this week. And so I feel like I took Monday off, and then I did so much strategy for like 3 days straight, and I was fried. But today I feel back to myself. So 5 days noted for the future. That's how long it's going to take to fully recover my system from the live event. And I'm super excited because we just opened a few days ago. So by the time this comes out, it'll be like a week ago, the doors to Embodied CEO Mastermind. So that only opens every 6 months, and that is the only container where you get to work deeply one-on-one with me in your business. And that looks like one-on-one strategy sessions with me. We meet every single week, and the format is the group meets every week, and it's a small, intimate group, and you get one-on-one time. And then there's a Telegram chat, so basically unlimited instant access to me for 6 whole months, so we can really go deep and we can actually implement all the different strategies in your business. And so it's like having me as a consultant and a business advisor and a coach all in one for 6 months. It is a very transformational experience, and just straight to exactly what's going to move the needle in your business. That's kind of the point of it. It's not information for you to consume. It's not, trainings and things you need to think about. It's actually meant for me to be that advisor and help you make decisions and help you stay focused on what's going to move the needle the most and create your marketing strategy and kind of your scaling strategy in your next level. So embodiedmarketing.com/CEO, you can check that out. You can apply. I review every single application, and I text you. And I have conversations with everybody who's considering joining, because I'm going to work with you for 6 months. And so I really want to make sure it's a good fit. And I think this round will be really focused on a lot of the strategies that I've implemented this year that have worked for my business, and helping the members who come in implement it in theirs. But it's highly custom. It's exactly what you need every single week to grow your business based on exactly where you are and your audience, your offer, and all of that. So anyways, I wanted to do a podcast episode actually in detail breaking down my weekly webinar funnel. I got a lot of questions about it at the live event, and when I did kind of like an open hot seat or an open, Q&A session in between the VIP day, they get hot seats. When I did that, a lot of the questions were actually about the nitty-gritty details of my weekly webinar funnel. So I wanted to talk about it. This has been a very impactful strategy for our company this year, because what it's done is it's created consistency. I convert extremely well on live webinars and live. I've really I mean, I have probably done at least 100 webinars. And so I've really worked hard on my presentation and like the art of a webinar. It truly is an art. And so I've always converted really well with live webinars, but we would find ourselves in these situations where we had to constantly launch, because that was what not had to, but like if we wanted to hit our revenue goals, that was what was creating a majority of the revenue, was the live launches. So we were constantly coming up with new topics and live launching and like promoting it to the list, and I couldn't really promote other things. And so early this year, it was like February of this year, we started the weekly webinar, and we used a topic that I had done several times already for my audience, and it had converted, and we launched that. And I've done now 24 straight weeks of the webinar. The only week I missed, which would have been 25, was the week of the challenge. I didn't host the webinar that week, but 25 straight weeks of the webinar. And it has combined the high conversion that I get on live trainings with the consistency of the fact that it's every single week. And so we have that consistency. So I don't really feel pressure to live launch. Like I live launched our challenge in July, and before that it was like March. So I didn't feel the pressure to do it. And I probably will stick to about a once a quarter live launch, and then just keep doing these live webinars. And it's working so great. So I wanted to give you the like nitty gritty of this. And obviously this isn't a fit for every single business and every single offer, but I think it could be a very great option for a lot of people. And they kind of came back. Like I didn't invent these at all. There's a lot of people that do them and do them well. Russell Brunson talked about this. When I go back 10 years ago, when I was doing marketing, I had clients doing a weekly live webinar. And I don't really know why I stopped and why a lot of people stopped. Like, I actually don't know, but I feel like they didn't work for a while, and then they do work again. And the cool thing is we're actually converting cold traffic off of these webinars, but it also contributes to the ecosystem. So let me break it down. First, I wanted to break down the why, which is we wanted to create consistency. And so we were like, let's try this. And for me, I mean, the system is so dialed that all I have to do is show up to the 1 hour. That's all I do. I log on, I teach the webinar. It's about 1 hour, and that's it. Everything else is my team updates. And it's just like such a dialed system. And we've actually started implementing this for a handful of clients. And even in our scale program where we do a live launch, we've built this out for some of the clients that it makes sense for that. I also really like that it puts you in a position where you have to practice your webinar, because I think like doing a webinar 1 or 2 or even 5 times, you're still not a master at it. Like there's still room for improvement. And so by doing it every single week, you're able to really like become the master of this webinar, which truly they are an art. A successful converting webinar is an art. And I think people think it's a lot easier than it is. There is a lot of intention that goes into creating a webinar. So the overall strategy is that the weekly webinar runs to cold traffic and then some warm audiences. But basically, I'm filling that webinar with 98% from ads. So we run ads to this webinar. I have like this one ad that we've run the whole time, and it is by far the top converting. It has like thousands of comments and social proof on it, and anything we relaunch, it doesn't outperform that ad, which is interesting, and also kind of in alignment with something we're seeing on Meta and paid ads, is that they don't want high volume of copy and creative, because AI can do that. They want the depth, and they want something that has engagement, social proof, and works. So anyways, we have a funnel that goes to sign up for the webinar with the date and the time on it. I do it every week on Tuesday, mostly because that's a day that both works for me, is a good day for webinars, and the time of day that I do it is 11 Central Time, mostly because that's what works for me. I've definitely tested different times, and it's an okay time for webinars, but it's not like, oh, that's the time it has to be. It works best for my schedule. So we do it every Tuesday. The date and the time is on the page. In the email sequence and everywhere, all we say is Tuesday. So we don't actually say the date and the time in the email sequence. We do have an add to calendar button that we update the calendar each week, but we don't say the date so that we don't have to go through and update all the emails. I don't say the date in the ad. It's only on that landing page and in the add to calendar. And so ads are constantly running to this. We don't start and stop them. And that's one thing that allows you to optimize it, is you're not starting and stopping. And so ads are constantly running. We don't turn them off. A few hours before my webinar on Tuesday, my team goes in, we've got a checklist, and they update the date and the time on the page to the next week. They update the ad to calendar, and I think there's probably some back end stuff that they do, like change the tags, update the tags on all. We have 3 funnels. We have an ad version, we have an organic, and we have a social media version. And so they update the dates on all of on the funnels, and all we have to do is change it on the landing page, I think the tags and the add to calendar, and then we might do a new Zoom link. Yeah, I think we make a new webinar link, but I use a like pretty link or URL that's like /live training. So that actually never changes. We just change the actual Zoom link that's directed to, so that in all of the emails, we're not having to update the actual link. So ads run all the time, primarily to cold traffic. So we target a lot of cold traffic. We also obviously retarget any of my warm audience buckets that are not buyers. So engagement on my social media, people have watched those videos, people have been to my website, people have been to my podcast pages, people that are on my email list, people that, any warm bucket. I think those are the main ones. So we will retarget those. But again, most of our traffic is cold and they're coming into that funnel. And so the way that I have the funnel set up is obviously you sign up for the webinar. There's some nurture emails, and I do no replay. So there's no replay, which really does help push the show up rate, is you got to be there live in order to see it. That is promoted in all of my emails after someone signs up for the webinar. No replay, be there live. On the thank you page, after they sign up for the webinar, they can DM me for a keyword to get a gift. I think it's like an AI, something to do with AI gift that they get, like how I'm using AI. And it actually goes to a podcast episode, because I'm trying to constantly bring people back into my world, right? So they opt in, they go to my DMs, which is then now follow me on Instagram. I do get a lot of followers from my ads. So they go to my DMs, they oftentimes will follow me and then DM me. Automated message goes out. It gives them the bonus that they are asking for, which in that is to a podcast episode. So you can see, like, I'm trying to get them in my world with ads and then nurture them into all the areas, get them over to social media, get them to my podcast. We email them and nurture them. So we push to them, no replay, you got to be there live. The messaging is very strong about being there live, that there's no replay. There's a bonus that I give them on the webinar, which is an audit. They get to like a 3-minute marketing audit. It's actually a tool that I made based on the webinar. It does a custom audit where they rate their business on everything I taught. So they get that at the end of the webinar. We promote that also for show up rate. We ask for their phone number as an optional field. So we do send text messages, and I do think that helps us with the show up rate. So we send text messages to get them to sign up. So they sign up for the webinar. We're pushing, come to the webinar, no replay, get the bonus, da-da-da. Webinar happens, and obviously I pitch on the webinar. Some of my strategies within that, like these are just webinar strategies in general. And again, I have poured thousands of hours into webinars, like 100 plus that I've actually presented, designing slides, designing different presentations, like the format. I can't emphasize enough. It does take time to master. I'm actually working on a tool that I'm going to put inside of, for all of our clients, inside of Scale, inside of for our elite clients, all my webinar transcripts into a tool that then you can upload your slides and your transcripts and get it audited. Because here's what, like at a high level, you're trying to do with a webinar. You have to create a gap that your offer fills and create desire for your offer within the content. So you're delivering value, but you're delivering value in the format of, let me show you either what you need to do to go from where you are to where you want to be, or what's missing from what you're currently doing, and giving those steps. And then those should have a lot of synchronicity and connection to your offer, so that when you get to your offer, it's like, I just basically showed you exactly what you need to do and what you need to implement and what's missing from what you're currently doing. And so now you need that, and you need implementation in one way or another. And that's the offer. And so I think that's the big thing people miss, is they don't have enough intention and a cadence for their content that by the time they get to their pitch, the buyer, the potential buyer, is either overwhelmed or is not like hungry for more. So they might be like, I got, like, this was great information, but it didn't create the gap and it didn't create that desire. You actually want your buyers, you want it to be like, you know, when you walk past a restaurant and it smells really good and you're like, I really need to go in there and eat that food because it smells so good. That's where you want the lead to be when they get to your offer. It's like they got the smell, they got the scent that like created the desire for what you sell, but they're not full. They're actually hungry for it. And to do that, your content has to be laid out in a very clear, structured way where it's providing value, because clarity is value. When you give someone and I say, here's the roadmap, you got to do A, B, and C to get to where you want. And for me, it's to have a successful marketing strategy. Here's the roadmap. Now, I know that you can't go do this by yourself. So here's the roadmap. And then I get to the end and it's like, you have option A or you have option B. You can go do all this by yourself. So I told you exactly what to do, or you can get help. And then I go into our offer. And so that is the part that I see people missing the most. And then I would say the second biggest mistake I see on webinars is people pitch their offer focused on the features. They're like, it has, you know, this many videos and it's this many weeks and it has coaching and da-da-da, and they don't focus on the outcomes. And it doesn't really matter the structure of your offer unless you're connecting it to how someone's going to get to the result. And so those are probably the two biggest mistakes I see, is like the setup and the content is overwhelming, disjointed, not clear. And then the pitch is focused on features versus outcomes. So I feel my webinar is pretty dope. Like, it's really good. And also our offers are really good. So I have to also mention that we started this right around, actually, I think the first webinar I did was to our offers when we changed them, and then we just kept it going. And that's when it started blowing up. So your offer that you sell does matter, and the positioning of your offer does matter, because you get to that point and the leads are hungry and they're clear and they want more, and you deliver an irresistible offer that is very clear that, you know, it's going to be fast for them to get a result. It's going to be easy. It's going to convert. I have really good bonuses on the webinar. I have a bonus that if they book their call on the webinar before I end it, they get, and it's a very good bonus. It's actually time with me. So that works really well. And I actually hang out, like I'll be in the chat and I'll be like, who's still booking their call? I don't want to end the webinar until you're done. And I'll hang out there for like 15 minutes while people are booking in their call and saying, you know, I booked my call or I'm still booking my call, and I'll just hang out. And people hang out with me. It's kind of crazy. I'm like, we're just sitting here. But no, I mean, I say things, I come up with stuff to say. And I think one of the things that has been so great is I've been able to very naturally take anything I get in Q&A. Any question I get around like, would this work for me? Or what if I don't have, you know, I'll show an example on the webinar. And in that example, my client's product is $1,500. And so then I'll get someone that will say, well, what if I sell high ticket? Or what if I sell a membership, right? And because they're comparing the example I give, which I obviously can't give an example of every option. And they're going, will this work for me? And so those little things I have like noted every week. And now I very naturally will throw into my webinar and be like, it doesn't matter if you have high ticket or you have this, you know, and I know the points to throw that in because I've done it so many times. And so that's why it is truly a beautiful work of art, because I'm not reading from a script. Every webinar is a tiny bit different based on my energy, based on the crowd. Like the things that I say, there are definitely things I repeat, obviously, every single time. The slides are basically the same. I do change them. I probably change them. I would say I haven't changed them in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but like every week I was changing it a little tiny bit. Like things that I was like, oh, that was a little uncomfortable for me, or there was resistance, or I didn't feel like aligned when I was saying that. It's not how I would say it. It felt too robotic, whatever. I would change it every week for several weeks. But now the little side commentary that I throw in, it changes every time, but I have my main points. And a lot of my main points have come from me learning the webinar and learning where people are already trying to diagnose themselves and say, this isn't going to work for me. And that's one of the powers within the webinar. So we have really strong offer positioning, really good urgency. And so I send people on there to book their call. And then we have levels. So I mention the levels, but I don't go into like crazy detail on them. I do explain it and explain the outcomes, but I actually just want them to book a call so that we can go into the detail and customize it to their business. So my webinar ends up being like maybe 70 minutes with Q&A. I'm definitely done with the pitch by the end of the hour. And then I will stay on until every question is answered, until everybody has booked their call that's in the chat, booking their call. And that has been really a positive thing too, is saying, let me know once you book your call, and actually having people in the chat saying that has created good interaction. That's another thing, is interaction. I interact with the audience a lot. I get them to put things in the chat, and I actually say at the beginning, because these are the little cues I've learned. I say at the beginning, like, look, I can't be present for you. I can't actually show up here and be present and retain this information for you. So I need you to do that. Can you promise me that? And also, I'm by myself in this office, and the more you interact with me in the chat, the more fun I'm going to have, and the better this webinar is going to be. So when I ask you to, put a number in the chat, put yes, do this, I want you to do that, because number one, I say it's scientifically proven you'll retain this information better if you interact. And number two, this is going to be a better presentation because I can feel your energy. So like that's an example of like in my script, but it's not even scripted. I just naturally say that because that has started to flow and work into my webinar. So webinar happens, I pitch, I wait till all the questions, then we go into the follow-up sequence. The follow-up sequence happens immediately. Now there's no replay. So it kicks off, and the main focus of the follow-up sequence is book a call. I'm just reinforcing the webinar. So all the registrants, even if they didn't show up, get the book a call. But I do two things. For the people who didn't show up, I'm going to give away my secret, you guys. Whatever. To the people who didn't show up, I send out an email that says, look, there's no replay on this webinar, but if you promise me that you're going to actually watch it, I will send you the replay. But you have to promise me you're going to watch it, and you have to reply to this email and ask for it. And so we do have it's very simple, very like casual email that goes out. We do put the replay from that webinar on there. And that way too, if somebody's in my DMs and is like, I signed up for the webinar, I really want to go, but I can't make that time. I'm like, look, if you email us, we'll give you the replay, but you got to promise me you're going to watch it. And so we send that out, and then what that does is it opens it up so the sales team can have conversations with people. So that starts the opportunity for us to get them to book a call. And then we also send out, I think it's 3 total emails spread out over a week post the webinar that say, you didn't make it live, I'm doing it again next week. Go register for the next webinar. And I think I emphasize in there, like, being there live is the best experience. So yeah, we said you could have the replay, but like, come live. You're going to get the most out of it. Register for the next webinar. And so basically the follow-up sequence lasts for about a week, but the actual main offer promo is 5 days. And then we go into the sign up for the next webinar. And even the morning of the next webinar, we have an email that says, I'm doing it again today. Come register and sign up. And so that's the funnel. And then I get all of these leads every single week. I'll talk a little bit about my metrics. I get all of these leads every week. We nurture them. We nurture them with podcast emails. I make sure that while somebody's in the webinar sequence, they aren't getting any other emails. So they're not overloaded, because there's kind of a lot in that follow-up sequence. And I don't want them also getting podcast emails or also getting mastermind emails. And then they go onto our list and get all of our emails. And so we build this list, and then I can live launch to these people. And so these leads that have gone through the webinar, maybe they've watched it 1 or 2 times. Like, because I reinvite people back, I see them come around and they've registered for 2 webinars, and then they buy. And then I can invite them to the challenge. And so this webinar funnel, I feel, significantly contributed to the success of our challenge, because we were able to have these very warm leads come into a different experience and then, converted, and we'd already paid for them. Metrics. So I spend about $2,500 to $3,000 a week on my webinar ads, and honestly, I could scale it. I want to scale it. I can't scale it too much right now because of our delivery. We can only take on so many clients, which is a great problem to have. But we're kind of sitting comfortable in this $2,500 to $3,000 a week of ad spend. And then we get registrants at about $8 cost per lead. Sometimes it drops into the 7s, sometimes up to the 9s, but about $8 has been our average over all the weeks. My show up rate to the webinar is about 18 to 20%. So kind of low, but that's consistent with what I saw in the challenge, right? And I feel like you just have to do everything you can to get that show up rate high enough, which is bonus, the no replay, text messages. So we are doing all of that. And it kind of holds steady around that 18 to 20%. Then on the webinar, I have a killer conversion. I convert, my record was 45%. 45% of the people on live, I converted to book a call. My consistent number that I hit every week is 25%. So 25% of the people on the webinar, I convert to book a call. And then we usually convert another 5% of the leads in the follow-up to book a call. And then we close 40% of those calls. So those are all really good numbers. Our average return on ad spend since we started is 4x. And I actually would love that to be higher. But here's the thing, that's attributing someone who came in from the webinar and bought. It's not necessarily attributing someone who came in for the webinar, then went to the challenge and then bought. And so that's the piece. It's actually more. Because if you remember my challenge, I spent $6K, made $100K. It's because of the webinar. So our immediate return on ad spend is 4x. And here's the crazy thing. This is cold traffic. So this is people that don't really know me buying. Like we did last week, 2 weeks ago, that webinar at the end of July did $28,000 in revenue from the $2,500 ad spend, or $3,000 almost ad spend. Crazy. Metric I forgot, our landing page, webinar landing page converts at 35 to 40%, which is really good. So most of our leads come from ads. I will every once in a while send out an email to my list and just be like, hey, I'm doing this training. And I make it sound fresh. You guys are all going to want to be in on the training. It's linked in my Instagram if you want to sign up for it. But hey, don't come funnel hack me and mess up my metrics, okay? You have to actually be interested in my offer or don't sign up. Just kidding. And then we do post it every once in a while on social with a keyword to sign up for the training. So again, 98% of the leads every week come from ads, but we will push it out sometimes more than others to email or organic on social. But I don't want to really email it out to my list because I don't want to burn them out. I want to keep them, being nurtured with the podcast and different things we have going on, and then do these challenges. I think I'm going to do the challenges once a quarter. I don't know, but it worked so well that I do want to do it again. So that is, I think, everything on the webinar funnel. And if I was to say, the biggest contributing factors, it goes to marketing 101. The topic of the webinar is great. The ads are great. The messaging is great. It's optimized. It's proven. The webinar is, if I do say so myself, pretty badass. And again, I've practiced it so many times. I've done it so many times that I just keep getting better at it. The offer is irresistible. The offer positioning is dialed. The sales team is dialed. The system is all dialed. And then the other thing is when people come into the webinar, like I said, they follow me right on social. They get in my DMs. They're in my world now. I'm posting twice a day on social. It's all about the ecosystem. So should you do a weekly webinar? I don't know. I think this is a great strategy for a lot of people. Of course, if you want help implementing exactly all of this, I'm testing constantly new things in the webinar funnel. We just did a whole different version of the landing page, and then we're testing that. So clients get that shortcut to everything that we already know is working, and then to the system. So I've had some clients come work with us in our elite package just because they want to get our system for weekly webinars. So you can go to helpmystrategy.com if you're like, I would like this implemented in my business, from deciding what the topic should be to the bonuses to setting up the whole system. Like I said, this is also even something we started doing for scale clients. I feel like I just really flowed that. You can tell I know my shit because I just said all of that, no notes, off the freaking cuff, all of that. And we have a tracker that tracks our webinars every week, the same metrics. So I know it. I look at it every single time because of course I'm like, what did I hit today for my call booking rate? Did I beat last week? It's my little game. And we're pretty consistent, which is also cool. It's like, it's not this up and down thing. Like, I feel very solid about scaling ad spend and scaling it. And I genuinely feel like this is the strategy between the combination of organic content and social and dialing that up so our ecosystem is growing, the weekly webinars creating consistency, the offers dialed in and super good, and the delivery amazing. Like the last 3 months, that's what I worked on, is overhauling our entire onboarding process. And then the challenges and doing these live launches. Between all of that, it's taken me to the 10 million. Like, I don't need to add anything else. Like, I'm scaling. That is where I'm at. And I literally can't increase the ad spend anymore because we need to hire before we can do that, which is a great problem to have. As you scale the ad spend, you're going to run into, like, conversion can go down a little bit, but we just keep an eye on that, and we track it religiously every week, every metric. And we track ads, we track the organic funnel, we track the sales, we track the attribution. So that whole system you could get access to. All right, guys, I hope you got some golden nuggets out of this. Let me know if you try a weekly webinar. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time.